The best electric two-wheelers today don't come from China, right? They come from India. Historically, people have tried to import technology from Europe, from China. It's never worked.
It's a non-trivial problem. What does it take to take that leap of faith?
It's an audacious goal. I mean, Indian OEMs have never bought their core platforms, their core technology from Indian companies. What I like to believe is engineering plus economics both have to work. Physics and molecules and electrons to manage, and they don't have egos, they don't have opinions. Deep tech companies have a higher risk of running out of capital, and you'd rather fail in the lab right now than fail in the field, because field failures are expensive. I think one of the advice I got was keep your board meeting short and crisp. Somehow I felt like that doesn't work.
Oh, I still agree with that. What do you feel is India's right to win globally when it comes to deep tech? Hi everyone, welcome to Lunchbreak with Lightspeed. I'm Harsha Kumar, partner with the firm. And today I have with me Arun Vinayak, the founder of Exponent Energy, a company that is quietly but rapidly changing the landscape of EV charging in the country. And I say rapidly, it's not just a punt, because I remember when Lightspeed started working closely with Exponent 3 years ago, Exponent was only charging commercial vehicles. And today, the company also charges a massive bus all within 15 minutes. And this is done with Arun Vinayak at the helm, all the way from his time as a PM at Ather Energy to now building this phenomenal company. I'm very excited to learn how Arun has transformed along this journey. Welcome to Lunch Break with Lightspeed, Arun.
Thanks so much for having me.
Let me start with the most important question. Why did you name the company Exponent?
I guess what happens when a bunch of geeks get together and start a company. We believe in the power law, right? We thought if what we're solving for Exponent has the ability to fundamentally change and solve for 80% of the problems we thought the ecosystem was going through. It was about doing a few things that will exponentially change outcomes, economics of EVs. Physics, engineering wise, we realized the technology problem we were chasing was exponentially harder, like going from 4-hour charging to 15-minute charging. It's 16 times faster, but it's actually, a lot of our problems are 16 square or 16 cube.
Interesting.
Harder from a technology perspective, right? So it's like the amount of heat that gets generated is 256 times more and not 16 times more. So a lot of engineering problems are exponential, and we thought, we'll call it Exponent.
Oh, that's very thoughtful. Yeah. Very nice. Oh, I'm glad I started with that. All right. You don't see a lot of deep tech companies building from India. I'm curious, like, what is your view of what it's like to build in deep tech from India?
I think in most segments, we've always been followers in the past. I think over the last 10, 15 years, a bunch of things confluencing has allowed us to have the right to win in a few deep tech problems, right? Especially if you're building deep tech for local markets, deep tech for markets that are fundamentally more aggressive in price points. For example, EVs in India, you can't, the price points are crazy, the environmental conditions they have to operate in are crazy, the Indian grid is really hard to work with, you have Indian temperature conditions, road conditions. So, historically, people have tried to import technology from Europe, from China, it's never worked.
Yeah. Actually, by that one I can attest to, and I remember when you were showing us your bus charging demo, and I think it was an iPad that was showing the progress, and the iPad crashed because it was such a hot day.
It was such a hot day.
And the bus kept charging, right? That is like, that's something in you.
Yeah.
And we need to build for that.
Yeah, we need to build for that, right? So I think today, I don't think the world has accepted that India will build fundamental technology building blocks. I do think it's a matter of time before that happens. But if you can find local markets that allow you to grow and build your business, but what that also does is it refines your tech. It really puts pressure on you as a company to refine every piece of your tech stack, the performance, the quality, the reliability, the cost structures. At some point of time, I think there will be flipping points where you can actually, this tech then becomes globally competitive, right? So I think that's the path that most deep tech companies have to take in India. Historically, it's always been digitization solutions or labor arbitrage costs that India has played on. Actually, the same analogy can be used for technology, right? So in deep tech, if you're looking at design and manufacturing, you want to co-locate both of them. India now becomes it's a great opportunity. It's not like talent is as abundant as say in the Bay Area or say in Israel, but it's getting there very quickly.
Yeah.
There are a lot more young, hungry engineers who want to build not just software, but they want to build real stuff.
Yeah.
And there weren't hardware startups in India 10, 15 years ago. And a lot has changed in the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah.
Hardware product companies, space tech companies, and now you're seeing companies like Exponent, for example, picking up the hard problem statements of building the building blocks itself. Not just building the products, but building the building blocks
Yeah.
for these products.
Yeah.
Starting with Indian products for India.
Yeah.
Like I said, I think it's only a matter of time.
But if you think about sort of more globally, and I'm asking this question because we're seeing this everywhere, right? Like you see whether even if it is like consumer apps or consumer companies trying to go global, with AI is happening more and more. Like I'm curious, what do you feel is India's right to win globally when it comes to deep tech? And specifically with like mobility, do you see that opportunity?
Yeah, for sure. Like I said, the best electric two-wheelers today don't come from China, right? They come from India. So I think it's a confluence of a few things. If there's a large local market that pushes you to innovate on both performance, and India's it's not a forgiving market, right? It's a market that really wants high performance, and it's also very value sensitive. So if you have large local markets that really force you to get your design and manufacturing and the entire tech stack, iterate on it year on year and really refine it to a point, then you got technology that is performance-wise, reliability-wise, cost structures-wise, hard to compete with by other global companies, right? And there are limitations in India deep tech space. For example, material science is something that China is still way ahead on. But if you start looking at things like power electronics or software, which has been historic strength, or integration design, there are areas in which India can actually be a global leader in a bunch of these segments. And mobility, like battery tech or EV tech or mobility tech, is one of that. We've picked commercial vehicles because commercial vehicles is India's largest energy consumer. Right? They're only 10% of the vehicles, but 70% of on-road energy is commercial vehicles.
Oh, interesting.
So we think, for example, passenger cars is something the rest of the world is really obsessed about because that's really what their problem is.
Right.
But India is one of the largest commercial vehicle manufacturers. Our largest energy problem is commercial vehicles, and no one else is interested in solving this problem.
Yeah.
So we have the right to win local conditions and local price points, build deep tech. But what this also forcing us to do is build deep tech that's globally competitive, right? For example, we have the world's fastest charging tech, right? There's no bus in China or US that charges in 15 minutes, right? But our buses do.
Phenomenal.
Because the infrastructure there is so much more organized.
Right.
Price points there are, in some sense you can be a little lazier almost, right? You could just put a larger battery because people can afford it.
Yeah.
Right? You're not worried about life as much. Financing is more organized.
Yeah.
People have, even most people who own a vehicle there just park at home, have organized parking.
Yeah.
They'll just charge at home.
Yeah.
We realize so many things about India. Most people in India don't park at home.
Yeah.
They can't afford large batteries.
Yeah.
They need ultra fast charging. India is very hungry, very entrepreneurial. So just the need for efficiency, need for value is so much more intense when you're trying to unlock these markets in India.
Yeah.
And if you look globally, beyond the passenger vehicle market, most markets have struggled in electrification. That's not true in India.
Very interesting. And then, like, who doesn't want 15-minute charging?
Yeah, who doesn't want 15-minute charging?
That's cheap. So
that's with a longer lasting battery and with energy that's cheaper, right?
Yeah.
So we think it's all of that.
Yeah, very interesting. I want to switch gears a little bit and maybe talk a little bit about your own journey, right? I'm curious, like, did Exponent Energy start with this idea of fast charging? Did it evolve into this idea? Did you ever think you will become an OEM? How did you land on deciding that you are in the energy business and not in, let's say, a manufacturer business or an OEM business? Like, was there a turning point in that journey where you made that call?
Yeah, I think very early on, what is very clear to us is that, and we've been building EVs for a long time now. I think there was a time when people didn't believe in EVs. They thought the vehicle itself is slow, it's boring, it's ugly. That was 2010, 2012, 2013.
Yeah.
I think fast forward to 2020, around the time we started thinking of Exponent, everyone wanted an EV. By then it was well understood that the vehicle is great, it's faster, it's better. It was really energy holding back adoption, right? And there were 3-4 problems, right? And we thought if we could build this tech, we could exponentially solve everyone's problems, right? And that's why Exponent. There was one problem which is independent, which most people were not setting up charging stations because these charging stations didn't make money.
Yeah.
Right? I set up a piece of land. I charge 2 vehicles a day. It's a terrible business,
Yeah.
right? So the thought process honestly started from there. Is how do you make charging profitable? Because you obviously need charging stations everywhere.
Right.
We realized the only way to make money in charging is charge more vehicles, which means you got to charge them faster. So like fast food restaurants make cheaper food, but also are more profitable
Yeah.
than say a gourmet restaurant that serves 2 people a day.
Yeah.
So we said fast charging is cheaper charging, fast
Yeah.
charging is more profitable charging.
Yeah.
But that meant you need to think of things on the battery side.
Interesting.
So we realized very early on this is a very interlinked problem, right? And energy is what an energy company of the future will look like and be is very different. We thought that's the opportunity. Today, an energy company is like a shell, right? It just sets up a bunk and a nozzle, and I can just dump a bunch of liquid into a two-wheeler or a bus, and that's what an energy company does.
Yeah.
It's very upstream. But with EVs, we realized, hey, there's already energy in the wall. Whether you're Exponent, you're Lightspeed, or any other company, the electrons behave the same. Suddenly, this is the transaction problem. How do I take energy from the wall to the vehicle? How do I make the battery last longer, charge faster, build a profitable charging ecosystem to support that daily experience? So we realized that's a large play there of building the best battery tech, building the best charging network, and a bunch of issues on the vehicle side. Right? Of course, one of the biggest reasons why people were not buying EVs was not because they were not faster, they just didn't know where to charge them. It just took too long to charge.
Yeah.
The batteries, they were not sure it would last long enough. And just beyond everything, mobility is about freedom, right? You buy a vehicle because you want to do what you want whenever you want, and EVs were in delivering that freedom. So if we look at all of this, how do you make charging stations more profitable, deliver a lot more freedom on vehicles, make batteries last long, we realized we have to build that entire stack, and that's why we said let's build that platform play. It's an audacious goal. I mean, I just think on a personal mission, historically Indian OEMs have never bought their core platforms, their core technology from Indian companies.
Yeah.
Right? So I thought there lies an opportunity for us to build a fundamental platform play. It's probably harder and the GTM is a lot more convoluted than just being a product company. We could have built our own three-wheeler or a bus and just launched faster.
Yeah.
I think that would have been faster short term, but long term we think the strengths and the capital allocation needed to be an OEM, which is buy technology, integrate, distribute, finance, and build a brand. It's a commercial vehicle OEM versus being an energy company. They're just two fundamentally different companies.
Yeah.
So we said, let's stay true to the platform side. Let's truly be a brand agnostic, vehicle agnostic, category agnostic platform.
Today you look back, it sounds very first principles, right? Like, hey, how do you make money from a charging station? You need to charge more. So if you want to charge more, you need to charge fast. Great, let's charge fast, right? But I'm sure, like, it's a non-trivial problem. What does it take to take that leap of faith when there's so much unknown? So in your case, I feel like the PMF was known at the beginning, but will you get there was not known.
Yeah.
And that's scary.
See, I think we had a vantage point to a lot of technology movements in the industry. Even today globally, there are like, I think 3 companies that have this technology, with only ones that have this at the scale that we have it. But when we were doing this in 2020, 2021, we were literally the only company in the world talking about it. Not because there were no smart engineers the rest of the world. I just think the need and the opportunity that we saw in India, like I said, if you're building EVs in China, Europe, you're solving for very different problems. What I like to believe is engineering plus economics both have to work. And if the economics are clear, then actually taking engineering bets is a very low risk approach. Because it's actually in your control.
Okay.
Right? I mean, there is no, you just put a solid team on it and you iterate hard enough, you will solve for these deep tech problems. If your first principles, of course, assuming your first principles and approach and all is right, which is, I think, a given. In fact, when you're building social platforms or you're building a lot of other businesses where the need of your product is not necessarily obvious and you could have adoption cycles that go either way. I think in a business like ours, like I said, the need is obvious. It's not like it's a premium feature. We're actually saying we're making this faster and cheaper. You're disrupting, you're delivering magical experiences at disruptively lower price points. That was, in some sense, I think that's how we think of business. How I like to think of businesses is, at least in a country like India, it's not just about delivering magical premium experiences. That's not where the market is. I think if you're able to fundamentally, like quick commerce, right, fundamentally make things more magical and at different price points, then suddenly you have inflection points. And it might take a bunch of iterations to get there, but then all those iterations are in your control, right? It's just physics and molecules and electrons to manage, and they don't have egos, they don't have opinions. They will listen if you do the right things.
Yeah.
So somehow that feels like a lot more deterministic a business.
Very interesting.
From an engineer point of view, right?
Yeah.
You know all of that is in your control. It's not about convincing
Yeah.
a large company to believe in your tech or convincing an investor to believe in your journey. Right? You're just playing with first principles. And because you know that the upside is massive, that creates the right motivation and the right alignment on what you're chasing. For the first year, we didn't have, I think for the first year, we didn't have the tech working. Right? It took us almost a year to actually get the tech working. And we were just building blocks for the first year. And when it all came together, we saw the first sign of success. But that was like at one cell, right? Then we had to like build actually a battery pack. Then you had to convince OEMs to adopt it.
Yeah.
So I think there are other cycles beyond that. But
That is such a contrarian view, right? Because I would assume most people would believe deep tech is riskier, right? And what you're basically saying is it's far more predictable than perhaps, building an app or a software solution or like a social network or something like that, right?
yeah, I might be heavily biased, but see, deep tech has the risk of needing more time,
Yeah.
needing more patience. But generally, the teams building deep tech are patient. They come in with that calibration that this takes time, this is a marathon. Deep tech companies have a higher risk of running out of capital before you see those inflection points, because the rest of the ecosystem is time sensitive.
Yeah.
Right? And that's, so to me, but that's not really a risk, right? Because in deep tech, you're building, like I said, you're chasing stuff that's obvious. Like, NVIDIA is building faster processing.
Yeah.
Who doesn't want it? Most deep tech companies are building products where the attributes are obvious, the end results are obvious, everyone wants it. But their approach and they're structurally very different, right? Either in technology or in business structuring or in manufacturing. So we said we'll have to do business, we have to do batteries and charging. That was a structurally different approach to solve energy from what everyone else was thinking.
Yeah.
Or build technology on both ends. But once you do it, the end results are obvious. And so it might take longer to build the tech. It might take even longer for adoption cycles because you're deep tech and your platform plays and your B2B cycles. But you're building very tangible tech. You're building very deep modes, and these are not modes that can be acquired through capital.
Yeah.
Cannot be accelerated through capital. In our case, also, it's not like more capital helps in the first few years of this journey.
Yeah.
You're building modes across multiple layers of engineering, across supply chain, across manufacturing, across processes. So to me, that just feels like the most short way to own a segment. So if there's a new way to look at deep tech where you remove time dilation and you give a patience number to this and rethink of how you allocate capital for deep tech, then I would think deep tech is actually, even on the numbers, less risky than a lot of other businesses. Given you have the right team and the approach is right and all of that, right?
Yeah, I hadn't thought of it. It's very exciting, very interesting view. How do you balance this need for speed with getting things right, doing it the right way, giving it the time it deserves?
So then internally, right, we have this framework called approach over results. Again, geeking out, like in electrical engineering, you have something called a right-hand rule, where you apply magnetism, you apply current, and force will get created.
Yeah.
Right? So we have our own right-hand rule.
It's like
right?
you're taking me 20 years. Now everyone knows my age. Yeah.
So we really focus on, hey, are you chasing the right problem? Like, is the upside obvious?
Yeah.
Right? Are you chasing the right problem? Are you really approaching it the right way, the first principles way? Are you giving it all, like no slacking off, no mediocrity in execution? And especially in deep tech, a lot of times experiments do fail, and in some sense, you're creating a culture that allows for that failure, and you'd rather fail in the lab right now than fail in the field, because field failures are expensive.
Yeah.
So I think that's how most deep tech founders are wired. I think so that's easy to do it in the 0 to 1 phase when you're building your early stage of the tech. I think, how do you start taking these bets together, right, along with the investors? Because in a platform play like us, it's not just about getting the tech right, then there's also adoption curves with OEMs, right? Large OEMs picking tech from India. We're also making secondary investment calls, right? Saying, hey, we're picking this partner in this segment. We think there's massive upside. Right. So I think my evolution curve here also, I think I started by saying, hey, here's great tech, here's an update. To I think learning to say, hey, and these are investors who are investing. So, and we are now investing together. So you want to get a sense of how you have a bunch of investors on your board now who do this for a living.
Yeah.
And we at Exponent have to now make investment decisions on which partner, which segment we want to pick. There are things on the ground that we have access to, but there's also more conventional investor frameworks that you can sort of look at. So I think we're now spending a lot more time, I think, talking about this approachable results. You've been subject to many long board meetings. I think one of the advice I got was keep your board meetings short and crisp and just give them updates and just ask them if they have questions.
Yeah.
Somehow I felt like that doesn't work.
Oh, I still agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
In our business, right?
Yeah.
Because I'll just send you the MIS, right? Or I'll just send you an email. But we are taking very non-linear calls, even in the BD, in the business development side. The numbers aren't there today in any deep tech company, and it's going to come, right? So it's almost like you need your board as one team, having that gut call. We are making gut call decisions, right?
Yeah.
So you almost need a curated gut of everyone making those joint gut decisions that we think this is the right segment to invest in, and I think that's been a change, and I think that's how we look at. So I think the framework of approachable results that works in R&D, I think also works in how you think of businesses and BD, how you have that communication framework with investors. Something we're trying.
Yeah.
Maybe 3 years from now we'll figure out how successful.
I think it's fascinating, and I agree with you. I think probably for most businesses, right? Like board meetings cannot be about just updates. Right? It has to be about deeper discussions. And yeah, I mean, I love the way you run your board meetings. So yes.
No complaints. The long hours.
How would you say you've changed since the first day that you started Exponent to today?
Oh man, so much. Building a company is the most humbling experience, right? Building products inflate your ego. I think building companies deflate your ego, right?
Oh wow. Never thought of it that way.
It's been I've been building products for 12, 13 years. We're building Exponent for the last 5 years.
Yeah.
I think we did a lot of things right on culture, on how do you bet on really large moonshots and how do you keep that going. So I think a lot of things right there. I think a lot of learnings, a lot of changes maybe, I think. And there's also linked to the company evolving, right? I think every year the company is shifting orbits. And I think a large part of the founding team's responsibility is to be ahead of the curve. It's almost like there's a need for us to be learning and evolving. I think as a founder, it's important that you're hands-on on sales, hands-on on everything in the early stage of the company, because you need to know how each of those mechanisms works. But in the growth stage, counterintuitively, you can't be the metric, but you can't be like obsessive on that on a monthly basis.
In the early days, what are some decisions that you took that you feel paid off, and which are the ones that you think failed or were costly?
Most people just say, hey, just build a battery or just build a charger. Why are you trying to do all of this? Right? From day zero, we're very deeply convinced that this is a full stack problem. It's a two-sided problem. It's going to be way harder to build both sides. Whether Exponent will succeed or not, of course, it has its own probability function. But we are sure that if you do this only one side, you will fail for sure.
Yeah.
Right? Success is never guaranteed, but we thought building full stack is the only way to make this work, make economics work all around. And early days, we said, if we get over this curve, things will really work on the other end.
Yeah.
Right? And today we're starting to see that, right? We're on the other end of at least micro geographies.
Yeah.
Where now people say, oh, I just love Exponent. Like, it's a one-stop solution for everything. I don't have to think about it. It's super fast charging, super reliable charging. My batteries last long, and cheapest energy. My charging stations make money, so I've invested in them. So I think a lot of the ecosystem creation problems obviously sound harder, but when they work, they really work. So I think we stuck to our gut on that.
Yeah.
And it's still harder today, and we've not finished the journey, of course. Every segment, every OEM we get on board, it's harder for them to realize that, hey, it's a full stack energy partner. It's no more a battery supplier.
Yeah.
It's actually a partner, and the OEM industry is not used to partners. So it's a new way of getting them to think of what an energy company means for them. That's something that worked, something that didn't work. Like I keep talking about it, I think most of the bets end up working. I think timing has always been the failure mode, right, for Exponent. It's not just, we're not a product company. We just get to build a product and launch. Like, sure, we built our tech, then our launch timelines, quality, etc., has always been dependent on external partners. We've iterated on a bunch of GTMs since then.
Yeah.
I think something is we were maybe too nice for external partners for too long. And I think we've sort of over time also, I think it's also a function of us building confidence internally, know, hey, we are delivering real value here, right? So I think it's also balancing that act to know, hey, okay,
Yeah.
I know we're delivering real value, we can command or demand fairness in how we go about creating the markets.
Yeah.
So I think that was a learning curve last year, and something that we're iterating on.
Yeah.
I think as a deep tech company, you get to be stubborn about very few things, right? Because a lot of is not in your control. I think there are very few things that we were very stubborn about, and I think that continues to.
What were you stubborn about?
Building this full stack, building commercial vehicles,
Yeah.
building in India,
Yeah.
and so all of that.
Yeah, those are all great decisions. Absolutely. One can argue that deep tech is capital intensive. And so, like, over the years, what are some sort of fundraising or capital allocation related lessons that you think you've learned as you've taken some of these decisions?
I think it's about putting capital allocation calls in ways that I think investors start to relate. Today, there's a framework of what it means to invest in CAC and build marketplaces. There's a framework of what it means to build maybe, what burn profiles of companies are in SaaS or in marketplaces or in consumer D2C brands, right? Because there's been those patterns. So I think if you're more early on in an ecosystem that hasn't seen these patterns, and let's say most of your burn is actually, like for example, our CAC burn is very small, but a large part of our burn is in R&D.
Yeah.
I think we're investing in stuff that doesn't go away, right? You could acquire a customer and they could leave, but we're investing in R&D that is ours to keep. And I think that's something that investors are beginning to get, because most investors are smart and they understand that this capital allocation leads to something outlandish as outcomes. And what deep tech has going for itself is the outcomes are never small.
Yeah.
Right? There's no deep tech company that has a medium-sized outcome. Right? So I think putting those perspectives in place, I think more investors get to see the path.
Yeah.
Momentum helps. I think in early days, in some sense, while approachable results, you can't just say, hey, I'm just going to take 5 years. I don't think India is there yet.
Yeah.
Right? So even for a deep tech company, we've been able to launch and prove revenue POCs in 3 or 4 years, which is extremely short time spans. So we had to make a lot of hard decisions and rethink how we've built tech to make those market launches faster and show momentum. Because I don't think India is ready for investment cycles where the company is doing R&D for 8 years, 10 years. Like, I don't think we're there yet. Maybe 10 years from now, I think that will start happening. I think it's a balance of ensuring that we're showing momentum. And it doesn't have to be perfect, right? It's, I think, a big inflection point in deep tech.
Yeah.
I think that's where being resourceful, figuring out, and time is most expensive because a large part of deep tech is actually a fixed cost of your team building this out. So I think being very selective on what problem statements you're picking to get there. It's not going to be perfect. Your minimum scalable product is not perfect, but it's good enough, and hopefully enough growth investors then start looking at it in a more conventional sense. And by then, hopefully, you've sort of also got a few programs running.
Yeah.
And you're also shifting the company's sort of gears from hustle, momentum first, to now compounding and farming first, right? So I think that's the transition from being a deep tech company to now saying, hey, we're now going to start being judged by conventional business metrics. And I think that happens in the 4th to 6th year of the company. I think you probably get 3 to 4 years of leeway to build your technology in today's India's context, right? Before you need to start pushing that out.
Knowing what you know today, other than the fact that we will see far more electric vehicles 5-10 years from now, right? What do you feel is the future of mobility? How will mobility change in the next 5-10 years? And I want to we'll see more electric vehicles and we'll see flying cars out of this. So
yeah, okay, so just to add 2 things which are conventional, which I also believe in, is I do think mobility will have to become 3-dimensional.
Okay.
Either we go underground or we go above ground. Just being stuck to the road is so limiting.
Yeah.
And we cannot scale.
Okay.
Which I think is fairly common thesis out there. And I think mobility will get smarter and self-driven, which is also a fairly common thesis. See, I think there are 2 ways, the multiple accesses to look at mobility. One is mobility is always they need to go faster, need to go further, they need to pay less to do that. I think that's mobility,
Yeah.
right? From walking to horses to bikes to cars. Generally, it starts off with the rich and then it gets bumped down, and everyone has access to the same horsepower at lower dollars. That's a never-ending question.
Faster, cheaper,
Further,
further.
right? Just more freedom, right? That
Okay.
You want more freedom, more access, and more people, more accessibility, so more people can have access to that power for speed.
Yeah.
It's not a logical need; it's actually a very emotional need, right? Like from time immemorial, we've always used to building tools around us to make our bodies better and more equipped, whether you're fighting wars or why do you buy shoes, right? Because it helps you run faster, right? And it's a way of expression. So I think there's a very utilitarian view of mobility in the future where every vehicle looks the same. It'll just be this autonomous driving pods, so boring that we'll all just get in, get
Like
out.
the sci-fi movies.
There's sci-fi movies, right?
Grey tin box.
Great in box, right? You look at iRobo, right?
Yeah.
Everything looks the same. I actually feel quite the opposite, right? I
Yeah.
think there'll be a lot more need for expression, right? If you look at cars in the 1960s, 1970s, they look so sexy. Suddenly, most cars look boring, they all look the same. And I think we'll go back to a time where there's a lot of, like, why do you buy shoes or clothes, right? Expression is so innately human. I mean, if you look at extension of that, I think maybe an Iron Man suit would be a way of mobility in the future, right? Because it will be very customized, it'll be very minimal. So I think minimal and customized, I think two axes in which I think people are not talking about.
Yeah.
And you know, people have always been talking about, oh, I'll just have ride sharing and no one will buy vehicles. I don't think that's been true, and I don't think that will be true. Because I think cities will stop existing, right? That's another thing that will happen with mobility getting faster and further and cheaper. Today I have to be in a city and we all have to live like rats in cities because just opportunity is very concentrated. I have to live very nearby
Yeah.
to access that opportunity.
Yeah.
But the minute I have flying cars and I could just
Live anywhere.
I can just live anywhere and access opportunity. Most things are digitized anyway.
That is very interesting. So, fundamentally, if we manage to achieve cheaper, faster, further, then why would you do something that is cookie cutter? You would personalize it because it's cheaper, faster, and it can take you further.
Exactly.
So-
Imagine a world where all the
Interesting.
electricity is generated by nuclear and solar. So energy is free,
Yeah.
close to free. It's clean, so you have no guilt factor of using how much ever you want. And you have these brand new age mobility contraptions that let you do a lot more.
Yeah.
And you're not living in cities, you're living anywhere you want, which means
Very exciting.
personal.
What a pleasure it's been to talk to you, Arun. Thank you so much for taking the time for us with us today.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.